If you're in the market for Bluetooth earbuds for the shop, you've come to the right place. Today, I'm going to do a shootout between 4 of the most popular brands. And guess what? The ones I don't keep, I'm going to give away, so stick around to the end of the video for details on that. The Wood Whisperer is sponsored by Powermatic and Type-On. So without a doubt, this is going to be the most subjective review I've ever done. 2 of the most important things are sound quality and comfort. And we all can perceive those things differently depending on the shape of your ear. One may fit better than another, and depending on how you like your music or podcast to sound. Some people like lots of bass, and some people can't stand bass, right? So it's a very subjective thing. I'm going to do my best to just deliver the facts as I see them, and a lot of it is going to be opinion. And then you could do with that information what you want. All right, so first, let's talk about fit, because without a good fit, all bets are off. Now, to get a proper fit, it's absolutely essential that you compress the foam material. It tends to be a little more pliable when it's warm, so I like to actually hold it for a couple of seconds, warm it up, and just keep squishing it so it's sort of the smallest cylinder it can be. And then very quickly, once you're confident that it's nice and squished, throw that sucker up in your ear hole, and I kind of rotate it as I push it in. And I'm putting it in as far as I can while it's still comfortable. If it gets to the point that you're pushing it into your eardrum, that's probably a bad thing. But I just want to occupy the entire ear canal and get this thing to go in as safely as possible. So this is where experimentation comes in. You got to try different tips. You have to experiment to see which ones actually fit your ears the best. Now I usually hold my finger here for, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds. You're letting the foam expand in the ear canal, and then it'll be pretty well situated at that point, and then I'll switch and do the other one. And of course, you normally are going to have this behind your neck. Some of them come with clips that you can make them so there's no slack there as well. Earbud tips come in a staggering variety of shapes, sizes, and materials. And I was really pleased to see that all of these companies give you at least different sizes, if not different materials and shapes. So you could really find the tip that works best for you. Now for me, I really want good noise isolation. So the foam, this compressible foam material, works the best because it goes into the ear canal and then expands to block out the unwanted noise. Works a lot like those classic earplugs that are made out of foam that we use. Now, if your earbuds don't come with tips that are good for sound isolation, you can buy aftermarket tips. And in fact, I had to buy these for a couple of these sets because they don't claim noise isolation. So I needed to get earbud tips that actually work for that. Now, these actually are Comfort Plus, but they do have larger ones like these that are meant for noise isolation. So if they didn't come with them, I actually upgraded them to make sure all of these earbuds are sort of on a level playing field. So now that we know how to wear these things, let's look at the different testing parameters. First, we're going to look at the price. These prices are accurate as of February 2018, and I'll get the prices from Amazon.com. We'll look at the ear tips that come with the earbuds, and I'll let you know if I had to use an aftermarket variety. Next, we'll look at noise reduction, what the company claims, and then what I actually heard with my own ears in the shop. Now, I can generally tell when something is leaking sound. If it feels uncomfortable, that's a bad thing. If I don't even notice the sound, that's a good thing. And if I can keep the volume really low, it tells me that it's isolating the sound well enough that I don't have to crank the volume up. Right, so that's the basis by which I did my test. It's not scientific, but it's the best I can do. We'll also look at battery life. Ultimately, it's got to make it through at least one workday. Now, a really important one for me is sound quality, and that happens to be one of the most subjective ones we're going to look at. The only way I could really think to convey this to you is to give you my frame of reference and what I'm looking for. So first of all, I've got a set of Apple AirPods that I really, really like. They're great. They just don't have any sound isolation for the shop. And I've got some Bose earbuds. Now, both of those produce pretty darn good sound, and that's kind of what I'm used to. So when I look at these earbuds, that's what I'm comparing them against. And then for my personal tastes in sound, what I like is a decent amount of low end. I don't want to blow my eardrums out. I'm not the guy parked next to you at the stoplight whose car is like rattling your windows. But when I listen to a good song, I want to feel the kick drum. And in fact, you know, one of the songs I'm going to use for my testing is from Pantera. It's a song called Walk. And if you ever listen to that, there's a bass drum sound in there that's so good and it's so meaty that it's just the perfect test bed for something like this. So just know that that's what I'm listening to when I'm testing these things out. We'll also look at comfort, and that's again subjective, but it's whether or not I think I could stand having these things in my ears for a few hours and how easy they are to put on and to take off. And finally, we'll look at some miscellaneous extras. If there's any bonuses or unique things that apply to one particular brand, we'll take a look at that. So very quickly, let's look at the different brands we're going to review. So here are the 4 brands we're going to take a look at. And why only 4? Well, because these things aren't cheap and I couldn't afford to buy more than 4. So I've got the ISOtunes PRO, the Shure SE215, the Soundpeats Q30, and the Jaybird X3. Now, all of them have a very similar form factor with a 3-button layout control. They all have a microphone, and they all have enough battery that should be able to get most of us through a typical workday. Only one of them is OSHA compliant. So if you do work in a shop that has restrictions on what kind of safety gear you can wear, these are the only ones that are going to give you that OSHA compliance, and you might be able to get those by your supervisor. Let's start with the ISOtunes PRO. At first impressions are good. The build quality seems durable enough for the shop. It's got this memory wire behind the bud that bends around the ear and some nice rubber coated buttons. The price is $89.99. It comes with 3 sizes of Comply ear tips as well as the flanged rubber style if you prefer those. It's certified 27 decibels noise reduction rating. In reality though, I put the ISOtunes as a tie for 3rd place. When using them near my Cyclone, they had a tendency to leak a certain frequency of sound that just felt uncomfortable during long milling sessions. Battery life was more than enough to get me through the workday. Sound quality was just okay. If you're not picky about sound, you'll like them. In this head-to-head, the ISOtunes once again tied for 3rd place. Regarding comfort, I would have no problem wearing these all day. I'm personally not a fan of that over-the-ear wrap, but once it's in place, it's comfortable enough. Another factor to consider is that ISOtunes does support our community. I don't know whether they do sponsorships or just free product, but they are involved. And for me, that counts for something. So when I'm looking for companies to support and I have to choose between 2, I'm always going to pick the one that supports our fellow community members versus the one that doesn't. Next up are the Shure SE215s. They certainly look cool with their translucent cases, and they feature a memory wire for wrapping around the ear. These are the only ones in the test that have a second component in line on the wire. The only user-specific function it has is the status light. This is the most expensive set in the test at $149. It comes with both rubber and foam earbuds, as well as a nice little cleaning tool. But the isolation wasn't as good as I had hoped for, so I tried a large pair of Comply tips instead. Now the company refers to these as sound isolating and claims that they block up to 37 decibels of ambient noise. In practice though, the sound isolation wasn't very good at all. And even with the aftermarket Comply tips, I ranked these as a tie for 3rd place with the ISOtunes set. Battery life is listed at 8 hours, and I see no reason not to believe them. For sound quality, I had really high hopes. Given the price point and the fact that I've got a soft spot in my heart for the brand, I really expected something great. Unfortunately, sound quality was again tied with ISOtunes in 3rd place. These buds are comfortable enough to wear, but getting them in is a little bit tricky. The buds actually swivel, so I suppose it's a feature, but for me, it just made inserting them into my ears a little bit tricky. And there is a cool extra feature that I'll mention. When you turn them on, there's a voice in the earbuds that tells you how many hours of battery life you have left, which is pretty cool. From the most expensive, we jump down to the most affordable, Soundpeats. These appear as well built as any in the test, but they've got more of a cylindrical shape. They don't have the over-the-ear memory wire, which is a plus for me, and they're also magnetic, which is cool, I guess. They come in at only $27.99. Now these come with a generous range of tips from extra small to extra large, as well as 3 sizes of those hook-shaped ear thingies. The company makes no claims about sound isolation, and the included tips are totally inadequate for the shop. So I purchased aftermarket Comply tips, and that boosted the sound isolation considerably, in fact, to the number 2 spot. Battery life seemed adequate, and they claim up to 8 hours. The one oddity regarding the battery is that this is the one brand where the company recommends low voltage charging. So you're probably looking at putting this on your computer USB port and not one of those wall chargers that we use for our phones. They're comfortable enough for regular use, and I really prefer this in-ear style over the memory wire. Now for sound quality, I was pleasantly surprised. It's a nice full range sound, a decent amount of bass, so I put these in 2nd place. Now at this price point, you know I'm hunting for a flaw. And so far the only thing that's happened, which I think is attributable to my stupidity, I was trying to put a comply tip on there that wasn't actually the right size and I was sort of forcing it on there. And I noticed afterwards that the screens on the inside of the buds are actually pushed in. I didn't think I did anything to cause that initially, but that's the only thing I could think of that would have caused it. So I don't know if that's a reflection of build quality or just user error. The final set are the Jaybird X3s. They feel nice and durable, and they've got a pretty sporty look. The bud itself is cylindrical like the Soundpeats, and the rubber ear hook is made of a pretty sturdy rubber. It also has holes for those of you with really sweaty ears. The Jaybirds are priced at $129. They provide 3 sizes each of the rubber tips as well as comply foam tips, just like the ISOtunes. They also have a few extra ear hooks. The company makes no claims about sound isolation that I could find. Yet, they include the comply tips, and as a result, these earbuds took the top spot for sound isolation. When standing just a few feet away from my Cyclone, these made me feel like I was wearing actual earplugs, with no unpleasant frequencies hitting my eardrums. Battery life is listed as the standard 8 hours, and I can't contest that. Now let's talk about sound quality. These earbuds sound great. They're actually on par with my Apple AirPods, if not better than those. I was already planning on giving them the top spot for quality when I remembered that they have an EQ app. This app lets you make changes to the sound that suits your music or your tastes, and you could save that setting to the earbuds. The sound just went from good to downright impressive. As for comfort, they're on par with the rest in these tests. Now this unit announces its battery life, but it does it with a percentage instead of hours, which isn't quite as useful. And one oddball thing, there's a charging cradle. So it's still a USB charging cable, but there's this little cradle on the end that's very proprietary, and if you lose it, you can't charge your earbuds. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but if you don't lose it, you shouldn't have any problems. So, time to draw a conclusion. If I had to pick a winner out of these 4, based on what I've heard and my observations, it would be hands down the Jaybirds. They have the best sound quality and the best noise isolation. I like the form factor a little bit better. And now it's just a question of longevity. I don't have any answers on durability and longevity in the long run for any of these. So ask me in 6 months and I may have a different opinion, because if it performs well now, but it breaks constantly, that's a problem. But ultimately I would pick the Jaybirds. If I was looking for a budget choice, I would go with the Soundpeats, okay? And in fact, even budget aside, I think the Soundpeats are a great second place in these tests. But look at the results for yourself and you might come to a different conclusion. But ultimately, this was a very subjective test. I wish you guys could test all of these for yourselves to add your opinion to the pot here. But all I could do is show you what my ears told me. Right? Now, to make things a little bit more interesting, I decided to bring in Nicole to do a couple of tests with her, just to get a second set of data for noise isolation and sound quality. Nicole, not an audiophile. She's the kind of person who will listen to low bitrate MP3s, be perfectly fine with it. She doesn't really care about sound. But I wanted her opinion because I think she's a fairly typical user. Right? So I sat her down, she listened to some of her favorite tunes, and when I go through a recap of the results, I will also show Nicole's, and I think you'll be kind of surprised with what her numbers showed. Now, as you can see with Nicole's, the numbers were exactly the same with regard to noise isolation. She ranked them in a blind test exactly the same way I ranked mine. Now, when it comes to sound quality, we did differ a little bit. We both picked the Jaybirds as the number 1. She liked the ISOtunes for second place, and third place, she liked the Soundpeats, and then she put the Shure models in last place. So I hope you found this shootout useful, and if you're interested in any of these products, we of course have links in the show notes where you can purchase them, including those comply tips. And really, remember, the tips are everything. All right, so thanks for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Well, thanks for sticking around to hear about the giveaway. Since I'm keeping the Jaybirds, I'll be giving away the other 3 earbuds to randomly selected commenters. All you have to do is click like on this video and leave a comment telling me your favorite part of the video. That's it. I'll select 3 winners in about a week.